Please welcome, what are we up to? Ooh, number 4. We're clipping along. Please welcome to the stage our 4th storyteller this evening, KlarkEversman. Come on up, Clark. Keep clapping. Keep clapping.
Oh, that's high enough. We didn't have a real bully in my grade school class. We just had this psycho kid. It's not the same thing. His name was Terry. Terry inflicted a lot of pain on us, but I don't think it was ever his intention to belittle or intimidate. I think his attacks were just his way of expressing disappointment. There was usually some sort of game of kickball or soccer or something like that going on during recess, and no matter how well that game was going, Terry was never happy with it, and it was always somebody else's fault, usually whoever was closest to him. With little or no warning, Terry would flip out and kick that poor kid's ass. And I mean that literally. That was his signature move, a roundhouse boot to the butt. And I'll tell you, that shit hurts. Especially if you're not ready for it. And Terry typically did blindside you with this move. Now, kids had different reactions to Terry's attacks, but there was often crying involved. I was no stranger to the sting of Terry's boot, and it usually resulted in me quitting the game. I was never all that interested in playing sports in the first place. To me, digging around in the dirt in some far corner of the playground pretending to be an archaeologist was far more entertaining anyway. But I didn't leave those games with tears in my eyes. To me, there was nothing worse than being embarrassed, and nothing more embarrassing than crying. I don't know why I was like that, but I don't think that was healthy. I probably should have cried more often than I did. Instead, I'd walk away hurt and angry, turning all those feelings inward, developing a greater and greater hatred for Terry. I remember once I went to my dad with my Terry troubles, and what he told me made it clear that I didn't get my turn it all inwards disorder from him. He told me to hit Terry. Hit him? I asked. My dad could tell I didn't even know what that meant. Well, yeah, you make a fist and you punch him in the head. Or I don't know how. My poor dad actually had to teach me how to make a fist that day. Yeah, I was not a natural-born fighter, and I didn't walk away from that lesson ready to school Terry. I mean, it struck me as sound advice. But I just didn't think I could pull something like that off. I was just a kid. That sounded like something Chuck Norris would do. So the months went by, and Terry continued to kick my ass, and I continued to retreat into my make-believe world of sideline archaeology until, finally, one day, on one fateful dig, when I actually found a real, honest-to-goodness artifact. Well, actually, it was just a flattened, rusty tin can, but my mind raced with questions about its history. How did it get there? When? Who else has seen it, touched it, used it? What was it used for? What was its intended purpose? I searched every nook and cranny of its ragged, rusty edges for clues to its past. I was 1,000,000 miles away on a journey with that can when suddenly Terry was right behind me, charging at full speed. Startled, I spun around and put out my hands to stop him, and I slashed his throat from side to side with that rusty can. Now, fortunately, I did not open any major arteries. But he did bleed a lot. And his reaction confused me. He cried and he cried and he pleaded with me, "Don't tell sister! Don't tell sister!" It was a Catholic school. Our teacher was a nun. "Don't tell sister! Everything's all right. We don't have to tell sister." Well, needless to say, any incident with this much blood is pretty hard to sweep under the rug. And yeah, sister found out and Terry was sent home early. But nothing happened to me. Not a word. Evidently, Sister Lynette was more aware of Terry's playground behavior than I knew. I mean, I don't think I could have gotten away with slitting any of the other kids' throats. But it was perfectly all right to carve up the psycho Terry. You know, I think if I were a bigger, better person, I would tell this story with greater remorse. I mean, no kid should get their throat cut. But he was a dick. And it worked. He never tried to kick me again. And I didn't cut him intentionally. It was an accident. I think. I probably should have cried more often than I did.